Hey friends, it's LML, 7 videos in 7 days, ready for the D, dragons that is, councils in session, you guys know the drill, alright. In a Dance with Dragons, you guys remember that book, right? There's a moment when Tyrion Lannister, as disillusioned as he is with his family, still finds himself puffing up with Lannister pride and warning Illyrio that he is a lion still. Illyrio's response is one of my favorite lines from the books, so check it out. That seemed to amuse the Lord of Cheese to no end. He slapped a meaty thigh and said, "You Westerosi are all the same. You sew some beast upon a scrap of silk and suddenly you are all lions or dragons or eagles. I can take you to a real lion, my little friend. The prince keeps a pride in his menagerie. Would you like to share a cage with them?" The lords of the Seven Kingdoms did make rather much of their sigils, Tyrion had to admit. Now this tradition is definitely good for cosplay and great for symbolism, but of course none of these Westerosi are actually human-animal hybrids. While the Starks can skin change wolves, they are not themselves werewolves or anything like that. And though the Ironborn make claims about descending from Merlings and Squishers, that does seem to be more about Martin wanting his pretend Vikings to have a suitably Lovecraftian aspect than some sort of deep secret that will shape the end of the story. The Targaryens, however, are another matter. They don't just dress up like dragons, refer to themselves as dragons, and did I mention they dress up like dragons? I mean, look at that armor. And this hairstyle definitely seems meant to evoke a dragon's wings, which is kind of awesome. And how about a dress with teeth? Now that's what I call a snappy dresser. No, but seriously, the Targaryens are in fact lizard people. Human beings with some sort of reptilian, draconic DNA inside of them. Some sort of island of Dr. Moreau, but with magic type thing. That's what we're talking about here. So I'm not sure if anyone was thinking that dragons just really like obeying people with silvery white hair, but that's not the secret. It's not about hair care. It's about lizard people. The Targaryens are able to control dragons because they are related to them, and this is from the world of Ice and Fire. The tales the Valyrians told of themselves claimed they were descended from dragons and were kin to the ones they now controlled. Now we know this is true, at least to some extent, because every once in a while, Targaryen babies are born with reptilian features. Scales, wings, and tails, to be specific. Dany supposedly has such a lizard baby at the end of A Game of Thrones, the baby who was supposed to be Rhaego. Mirri Maz Duur described it thusly.
"Monstrous, twisted, I drew him forth myself. He was scaled like a lizard, lined with the stub of a tail and a small leather wings like the wings of a bat."
Now I say supposedly because we didn't actually see baby Rhaego. Mirri Maz Duur describes it, and Jorah says that the handmaidens who witnessed the birth confirm her testimony. So it does seem solid. I don't think there's any sort of conspiracy here. Especially because, like I said, Dany isn't the only one to birth lizard babies. Maegor the Cruel, yes, you knew we were going to talk about Maegor. He really should have been known as Maegor, King of the Lizard Babies, because that's what he was. Now, I don't really have too much art to show you. Somehow the wonderful and talented artists of the fandom have neglected to draw each one of Maegor's lizard babies, which is frankly disappointing. But yeah, Maegor had 3 of them, with descriptions like a malformed and stillborn child, an eyeless boy born with rudimentary wings, a legless and armless creature possessed of both male and female genitalia, the stillbirth, a monster with twisted limbs, a huge head, and no eyes. And look, hermaphroditism is real and, of course, doesn't make anyone a monster, but dragons are thought to be able to change gender, so this is likely intended as another sign of reptilian DNA, even if it's a little tasteless or insensitive. Now that said, Maegor is definitely churning out some lizard people here. I mean, if he had kept going, he might have birthed an actual 3-headed dragon person, who knows? And of course, it should be pointed out that there may have been sorceress influence over Maegor's attempts to sire an heir, just as Mirri Maz Duur may have potentially tampered with Dany's pregnancy. But whether sorceress foul play was involved or not, we're still left with the fact that the Targaryens are occasionally producing lizard people. I really don't think there was some sort of long-running conspiracy between Mirri Maz Duur and Tyenna of the Tower to transform perfectly healthy and normal Targaryen pregnancies into reptiles.
Reptile wins.
If anything, magical tampering or poisoning may have caused certain latent attributes to manifest. Those attributes are decidedly reptilian, so what's going on here? Well, there certainly is a deep dive to do on just how these lizard genetics got into the Valyrian bloodstream, and I'd point you towards the Dracomorph video if you really want to go there. Spoiler alert, it might be kind of like the movie Aliens. But the bottom line is that either the first Valyrians or their possible ancestors in Ashai somehow used magic to create humans that had some trace of dragon DNA fused to their own, with the end result being a race of people who were born with the ability to form a psychic link with dragons. And that is really what's at the core of all of this. All of the dragon heraldry and dragon armor, House Targaryen itself, Daenerys and the Red Comet, the entire history of the Valyrian Freehold that we reviewed in the first episode in the series, the Game of Thrones show and this YouTube channel, and you sitting at home watching all of it. It's all about the Dragon Lords, and the Dragon Lords ride dragons because they're lizard people. Human dragon hybrids. All right, so what does this mean for the TV show House of the Dragon? Well, a few things. One, lizard babies are always a possibility, obviously, and a lot of people get pregnant during the course of the show. Lizard babies can come from a single Targaryen parent, and it can be either parent. So anytime a Targaryen tries to spawn more humans, they might get lizards. And two, and this is maybe more important, everyone should understand that the Targaryens don't just ride dragons. They share a magical, psychic link to their dragons. Because of this, dragons only have one rider at a time, meaning nobody else can attempt to mount Caraxes except Daemon, unless Daemon is carrying a passenger, of course. Dragons can be claimed by new riders when the old rider dies, but that's it. One dragon, one rider, and they share a deep connection. Now, this link doesn't seem to be quite on the level of skin changing, where the human can see out of the animal's eyes at will, or even possess and control the animal's body. However, we've seen that Drogon can sense when Dany is angry, or even when she experiences sexual pleasure. And we saw that Dany dreamed of Drogon before he was born, and could even sense his presence inside the egg, reaching out to her. All of that indicates a psychic link of some kind, and we've also seen that some young Targaryens who were at first described as timid or sickly or weak, like King Aenys or his daughter Rhaena, actually become stronger, more healthy, and more confident after bonding with their dragon. Thus, the dragon bond is better thought of as a low-level, or you might say passive, psychic link that flows both ways, as opposed to just a leash for the dragons that the riders can hold and use to control them. Now, if you've been watching any of the cast interviews that have been dribbling out, you've heard the actors speak about their characters' relationships to their dragons in just this way, which is a great sign of how in sync the show is with the deep lore of Martin's world. For example, Caraxes is brooding and moody, just like Daemon, and although Rhaenys the Queen Who Never Was does come across as kind of a shrewd and very in control of herself political operator, her dragon Meleys seems to represent her connection to the untamable, the intuitive, the non-political, and the straight-up animal aspects of her personality. And by the way, I was basically summarizing the words of Eve Best there, who plays Rhaenys. We can also see this psychic link at work in the tradition of placing dragon's eggs in the cradle of Targaryen newborns. It became customary for the fathers and mothers of newborn princelings to place a dragon's egg in the cradle, following a tradition that Princess Rhaena had begun many years before. The children so blessed invariably bonded with the hatchlings to become dragon riders. So this tradition makes a lot more sense when considered in tandem with Dany being able to form a psychic link with her unborn dragons. Clearly, the dragon bond can begin when the dragon is still inside the egg. And perhaps this is actually the best way to do it, since it says that children blessed with such eggs invariably bonded to the dragons born from the eggs. And since trying to claim an already hatched dragon can be a very dicey proposition, as we'll see in Season 2 or Season 3 of House of the Dragon. So again, it's not exactly like skin changing, but it's not just a matter of the Targaryens knowing how to train dragons or whatever. It all starts with this psychic link, and that link was apparently a result of whatever freaky-deaky magical experiments put the reptilian DNA into the ancient Valyrians. Alright, so the final thing I'll say about the Targaryens being lizard people is that this may have something to do with the perception that some Targaryens go mad. That dreadful line about each time a Targaryen is born, the gods flip a coin is actually very misleading, of course, since only 4 or 5 Targaryens out of the 70 plus that we know of can't even be argued to be in any sense mad or crazy, although obviously those are not even close to technical terms, and we don't actually use those terms in mental health circles anymore, as they're entirely subjective and carry all kinds of baggage. There's also the issue of the Targaryens being blessed, or cursed, you might say, with prophetic dreams, which are always some sort of mixture of extremely dire and extremely confusing, and occasionally acting on those dreams may lead others to wonder about madness. Tomorrow's video will actually be all about the history of Targaryen prophecy and dragon dreams, by the way, so we'll go into that in more detail then. But prophecy aside, these, again, are lizard people, and the presence of this draconic DNA seems to affect who they are as people. It makes them more like dragons, more resonant with them. Kind of like the truism that people resemble their pets, only a lot more so. I'm a bird person, for example, and sometimes I'm a little bird-like. But these dragon lords, they are actually like 1% dragon or something like that. And it does seem as though George Martin has written them to be a little more fiery, or dare I say it, hot-blooded. And don't make me get my foreigner belt. Shout out to Aqua Teen Hunger Force and the Moon and Knights. And sorry if you don't get the reference there, but I'm sure you get the point. The blood of the dragon actually has the blood of the dragon. And honestly, it would be weird if that didn't shape their personalities in some way. Emma Darcy, the actor who plays Rhaenyra, actually expressed this really just perfectly in a recent interview, so I'll close with their words. It's an emblem of identity for her. Rhaenyra is humming with Targaryen fire, and what does it mean if fire is your ally? Fire is this volatile thing that is hard to control, that is hypnotic, that is beautiful, that is both an agent of terror and an agent of transmutation. It functions by destruction, so that from the ashes, something new can exist. That's where my area of reflection was. What is it to live with all of that inside you? When do you have to dampen that? And when do you learn to trust that? But it's hard to bring fire into a council chamber. It's difficult. So like I said, really great comments from Emma Darcy there. It almost sounds like they've been listening to our old episodes of Mythical Astronomy where we talked about transformation through destruction, the transformative power of fire, cleansing fire, all that alchemical stuff. So very cool, very cool. And I know I say very cool too much, but it is really, really cool to see the actors understand the characters so well. All right, thanks very much, everyone. And once again, look for one video every day this week leading up to the kickoff of House of the Dragon on Sunday. And be sure to tune in right here every week after the episode for the live House of Flying D's postgame show with Grey Waist Tim and Girl Nettles. So that'll be approximately 10 p.m. Eastern every Sunday right after House of the Dragon. Cheers, and I'll see you next time.